Well, I have to say, my next featured expert is another one who's just a fireball. This woman, we actually met several years ago at an eWomen Network conference, not a meeting, but a big conference. And it was in, I believe, Dallas, Texas, or Houston, Texas, and just hit it off right away. And turns out, as life goes on, I became vegan. She's been vegan, and we reconnected. And Elayna Fernández, she is the owner, founder of The Positive Mom, and I want to dig way into what that is. But before we do, I want you to know that she actually grew up very different than her life today. She grew up in extreme poverty in the Dominican Republic and had a lot of obstacles to overcome. And she is just a fireball that doesn't believe in the word no. So, Elayna, how are you?
Welcome to the Vegan Visibility Podcast Show, where your host, Kathleen Gage, shines the spotlight on vegan and plant-based businesses and entrepreneurs from all walks of life committed to cruelty-free eating, healthy lifestyles, animal compassion, and the environment. Enjoy the show.
Oh, thank you, Kathleen, for those words and that beautiful introduction. I am doing fantastic. I love being here with you.
Well, I'm really interested in The Positive Mom, but before we get into that, let's talk about your vegan journey. How long have you been vegan? What motivated you to go vegan? Because this is the Vegan Visibility Show, and I only feature vegans on my show.
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting because my journey started with my daughter's journey. I started homeschooling my daughters. I have 4, but at that time I only had 2. And at the library, she read a book by Jane Goodall. And then she comes home and it was close to her birthday. She was going to turn 7. And she said, "Mom, I have a very, very important thing to ask you. Please say yes. Please say yes. And it's going to be the only birthday present I want." And I was in shock because my Alicia, my first one, she's the one that asks for everything. But my second daughter, she never wanted anything. And so I was just very puzzled about this request. And I said, "Well, we'll see what we can do, honey." And she said, "Can we please never eat anything that has a mom?" And I was in shock. I said, "What do you mean?" And she said, "I want us to be vegan." I had never heard this word before. In the English language, this is common, but in my Spanish language, I had heard of vegetarian, but never vegana, vegan. So I asked her more information about it, and I said, "Okay." And the thing, Kathleen, is that we already were very clean eaters. I've never had fast food. I have never had a donut. I mean, the way that I grew up was very different. So when I came to the US, I already was into eating vegetables and clean eating and very low animal products. However, when she said that, I thought this is going to be easy. Next week, there'll be a birthday party, and she's going to eat cupcakes or something like that. She's going to forget about this. And that was not the case. She became an activist. She would tell people, that what you're eating had a mom, or is somebody's, it could have been somebody's mom, another animal's mom. And it was just very beautiful. So after about a year of trying to, incorporate this into our lifestyle, I saw the difference in my body, in my spirit, in my health, and all of that. And I became vegan. Then later on, after actually we moved to the Dallas area, my other daughter, my oldest, became vegan. And then eventually when I had the 2 little ones, my pregnancy was vegan, and they've always been vegan.
I love that. I love the fact that your children were born vegan. And with your 7-year-old, how old is she now?
Oh, she's 9. Oh, she's my oldest. Oh, she's 19.
Okay, so you've been vegan how long?
11 years.
11 years. Okay. And then your other two babies, they were born vegan.
Yeah.
What, I do want to get into the positive mom, but that fascinates me because what's been the distinction for you raising your babies vegan and all their life they've been vegan? Tell us about their health, and is there a marked difference between children that are raised on meat and dairy and those that are raised vegan?
Yeah, I think it's really, because they have lots of friends, their ages. I can see their immune system is stronger. I can see that they have more stamina, more energy, and more focus. And my kids are very, I shouldn't be calling them kids, they're young adults now. But I could see the difference between, birth and 7 and 8-year-old, which was at that time my other daughters, and my little ones who've been vegan throughout that journey. And the level of energy and sharpness of focus is incredible. And for my older ones, in comparison to their friends, the health is just incredible because I don't think, knock on wood, right? But like, they've never been hospitalized. They've never had like anything major. If they get, catch a cold here and there, they bounce back so quickly, no medication. It's just being really incredible and a blessing in our lives.
Well, it's so amazing because when you look at people who eat a real clean diet, and by clean, a plant-based, a whole food, void of all animal and dairy, the difference between with young people, them, and then kids their age, and then like my age, I'm going to be 69 in a few months, and I look at women my age and I'm just like, oh my gosh. And I mean, even women younger than me that are like, oh, wait till you get older. I had a woman who said that. She goes, wait till you get older. And I'm like, I'm probably older than you. And she goes, how old are you? And I told her, and she goes, oh my gosh, you are. She goes, what's your secret? And I said, do you really want to know? And to me, that's an opening to be able to talk about healthy eating and the benefit to the animals and all that. So in your life with moving into the positive mom, when did you start the positive mom, and tell us about what the positive mom is?
Yeah, it's interesting because, whenever I say I've been the positive mom for 18 years, people think like you're not old enough. And my secret is also my vegan diet. But, it all started 18 years ago to the day, because it was, in late November that I had this moment in which I became a single mom. And I was questioning everything. I was on the ground in the fetal position, just having the darkest, or one of the darkest moments of my life. But I think it was the darkest because now I had a 1 and a 2-year-old that depended on me. Before, it was more like I was by myself, and whenever I had one of these episodes of everything coming back to haunt me, I just thought about myself and, it's going to be okay because it's just me. However, with these 2 tiny beings that I was now responsible for, I just felt like it was too much, and like I didn't have what it took. I didn't have money. I didn't have friends or contacts or family in the country. I didn't know how to drive. I was going to be thrown out of this, little place that I was staying in. And I just felt really lost and desperate. And in that moment, something shifted, and I received this inspiration that even though I couldn't come up with what I was going to do, no to-do list, no next step, I could write down who I could be. And that was the first moment that I wrote my to-be list, which is my daily practice, writing a to-be list, who I can be today, who I intend to be today. And in that moment, my first thing that I wrote was be positive. And I said, I could do that. I don't know how to, get a driver's license or learn how to drive or get a bank account. I don't know any of those things, but I know how I can be positive. And interestingly enough, it was this flashback of a movie called Life is Beautiful, which is in Italian, and I speak Italian, one of my languages. And so that gave me the fuel that I needed to get out from, from that from that darkness, to see more light, to appreciate the things that I needed to have. And it also gave me the inspiration to start something for moms like me who feel very alone, who don't know what to do next, and who don't really have a plan or know where to start in their journey, not only of being a single mom, which is something that happened to me, but any step in motherhood. And so that's where it started. I created my blog because writing has been something that I used to also process my emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And also the community, because I knew that I didn't have that when I needed it. I didn't have anyone that I could really call on or to help me, or to give me a encouragement, or to give me a clue of what to do next. So that was where it started. And now I'm in 168 countries. Millions of moms read my blog, and it's just been really humbling to see the impact that moment had in my life, but also that decision had on so many people around the globe.
I love your story because, if people go to and I encourage people go to your website and read your story, because, they see you now, they see that you're, the mother of, children that are healthy and young adults now, that you're doing great. You have millions of readers, and they say, well, you don't understand. It's like, oh, yes, I do understand. And when you said the fetal position, it actually reminded me of when I first got sober. I've been sober 39 years. And when I first got sober, I remember an occasion, and you just reminded me with that one term, the fetal position, when I didn't know how to do life without drugs and alcohol. And I was just a few months sober, and I was literally in the fetal position in the corner of my room. And I was on the phone with my sponsor, and I was like, I can't do this. And she goes, yes, you can. She goes, I'll walk you through it. And it's like, with what you're doing, you help to walk mothers through that whole journey of when they feel alone, when they feel hopeless, when they feel helpless, and to let them know there is a better day ahead. And I want to remind people that you're listening to the Vegan Visibility Podcast Show. I'm your host, Kathleen Gage, and I'm talking with Elayna Fernández, and she is the founder of the Positive Mom blog, podcast. You have it all. You're a writer, you're a speaker, you're definitely a force to be reckoned with, because I remember meeting you at eWomen, and you were just this little fireball that was going from person to person and just like spreading positivity, truly spreading positivity. So how can people find you? What's the best way for people to find you?
The best way for people to find me is on the website, thepositivemom.com, thepositivemom.com, and at The Positive Mom everywhere on every platform. So
for people, because, I have men and women who listen to this show, and sometimes men feel kind of lost, and they're like, well, I'm not supposed to have emotion. I'm not supposed to feel fear and pain and all that, which is the biggest lie that they've been told. What can you encourage people with that are feeling like there's no hope for tomorrow, that they're really feeling lost? And what are some baby steps that they can take that would help them to feel more in control of their life?
I love that question so much. And I want to also just take a moment to honor you and congratulate you for, the sober years. Is
Thank you.
Such an accomplishment. And I just got chills hearing your story. I think that, it all starts with recognizing that we are not what happens to us. Mm-hmm. And interestingly enough, I found this truth when I was in a coma. So I'm 19 years old. I'm in a car crash as a passenger in the back seat, and the car flips, and it's on top of me. And while I was in the coma, I realized that I had to face all of the things that had happened to me, my memories, my intrusive thoughts, all of the trauma that I had endured in my short 19 years. I had to come face to face with them because I couldn't work it away, which is my mode. I was working or studying or proving something to somebody. And so I think that getting still, even though, I don't recommend getting in a coma, but but what I recommend is, getting still and really recalling your painful memories. And I have this process, and I call it your daily date with pain. And in this process, it's a 7-step process, but I'm just going to give 3 that will work just fine. Just to give something really quick that we can all do. And the first step is, I call it see, sense, and say. See is the first step, to close your eyes, get still and in silence and see something that happened to you that was either stressful or distressful, or it was a memory, something that's bothering you or that bothered you before. And I recommend doing this with the things that from your childhood, because that's usually where our limiting beliefs come from. So every day, choose something and it'll come to your awareness. Your intuition knows, your higher self knows what's going to come. And then really stay with that for just 90 seconds, because actually Jill Bolte Taylor tells you that, or tells us that science teaches that 90 seconds is all it takes for ourselves, for our systems to process any emotion. So see it, see what happened, then sense it in your body. That's step number 2. See if maybe your shoulders are slouching, maybe you feel a knot in your stomach, whatever that is, you can find any stress that you're processing, you can find it in your body. And the third step, I call it say it. And it's actually my favorite word in the world. It's validation. You're going to validate, whatever it is that you're feeling in that moment. So for example, if you're feeling like, oh, I was so angry when that happened, you can say, wow, yes, of course you were angry. That was the only possible response that makes sense to what happened to you. So basically you're validating, and validating has 2 separate parts. One is acknowledging that this is happening, that is valid, that it makes sense. And the second is allowing for those emotions. And it's only 90 seconds, allowing it to be there and to feel it. And the reason why this daily date with pain is necessary is because 90% of the time we're reacting to something that already happened in the past. And whether you're a mom or you're a, man leader in a company, doesn't matter, what the spectrum is, you are reacting and you are treating other people based on that filter of that unprocessed trauma. And when I say trauma, Kathleen, I want to make sure that people understand that trauma is not what happens to us, is what happens inside of us as a result of what happens to us. That's from, Gabor Mate to Peter Levine. They say, it could be anything. Right. But if you were alone in your pain, that's going to be traumatic for you. So whether it was something that you deem not important, because in our society, we're trained to dismiss and deny and downplay our pain, or maybe something that you think was huge in your life, it doesn't really matter, because there's not a pain scale like that in emotion. It just means, if it's inside of you, if it's coming to your awareness, it needs to be processed. And then you're going to feel more peaceful with yourself, but also that's going to really spread to all the people around you.
Well, and I really thank you for sharing that, the 3 the first three, and you said there's seven, but the daily date with pain. What I really like about that is slowing down for 90 seconds, because it's amazing how many people just automatically get out of bed and they go into autopilot, and they don't think through what they're doing in the day. They think they do. They think they're conscious of what they're doing, but to actually stop. And I do daily meditation. I do daily yoga. And one of the things that I have a favorite on YouTube, Jen Hillman, that I tune into, and she says, just stop and breathe and just notice what your body is doing. And it's amazing that just that one step, what it can do for raising awareness and the healing that goes on. So I really appreciate that you shared that. And if somebody wants to learn the 7 steps, how would they learn that? Would they get in touch with you? Would they go to your website?
Yeah, they can go to my website and they can also get in touch with me so we can go deeper into that. I think that, what I love about what you said is that I think that once we make that first conscious decision to pause and to breathe, like you said, it really is like waking up from a coma. I mean, I remember when I woke up from my coma, that's the first thing I did was breathe. And it was labored. And of course, I had oxygen and all of that, and it hurt. However, I learned the power of the breath, the power of the intentional breath. And so the reason I'm saying this is because 90 seconds, we all have 90 seconds.
Right.
And that's the power of setting aside, I know I was a single mom with 2 toddlers, 1 and 2, when I started my business. And sometimes it's like, we don't have 5 minutes. Kids are not napping at the same time. I'm building a business, then I have a 40+ hour job. We all have a lot of responsibilities. But if we can just breathe, be aware of our, this beautiful divine gift that is our breath. And if we can just take 3 little steps every day, then a lot is going to open up, and we're going to have more time and more energy and more focus into what we want to do. So actually, this is something that exponentially multiplies our ability and our capacity to live a different life.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I want to switch gears here a little bit and move into the Positive Mom, your blog, and how you've grown your blog, and you actually have you're a spokesperson for different brands. And talk to us about that, because you have a highly successful career and business, and it started with you just having an idea. So what has been the growth process of the Positive Mom?
Yeah, so thank you for that. I always tell people that want to blog, it just starts with sharing what you know. It starts with sharing what you know, telling a story. So in a story, a lot of people say, oh, you're a storyteller. Of course, you're blogging. And, I'm a storyteller because I blog. And a story is simply something that happened. When you share a story, it's just telling people what happened and making sure you bring them into the experience. So the growth process has been really intentional. I have 3 ways in which I monetize my blog that I'm going to share right now. Number 1 is ads. So you can put ads on your blog to monetize it. Number 2 is affiliate marketing, and you can, create affiliate relationships so that if you don't have a product to start with, you can promote other people's products that you believe in and that you trust. I'm obviously an affiliate of your brand because I believe in it. And so the third one is going to be ambassadorship. And that's what you're speaking about, is finding brands that align with you, that you could share about their product or service. And so they pay for you to mention them and add key messages to what you're writing. You were going to write about it anyway, and they're just simply adding a spot that they pay for. And so the reason that I became successful in my blogging, I think it's mostly authenticity and a desire to help. And that starts with, who am I? really? What am I about? What
Mhm.
is my bigger purpose? And then desire to help. Who am I trying to help? And, in the beginning, I blogged for everybody, and it was very murky, and the message was very, very, I would say, vague, because I didn't have that person in mind. And so when I found Mariela, let me tell you who Mariela is. She is my inspiration, my imaginary friend that I write every blog post for her. So I know how many kids she has. I know her ethnicity. I know how old she is. I know where she shops. I know what really, really turns her tummy, that, she finds what she finds disgusting, what she loves, what her purpose is, what her goals are. So when you get really crystal clear, this is who I am and this is who I'm trying to help, then really that's the key to anything you create. And so when I got crystal clear that I wanted to help moms, it can be a little bit icky, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose the dads. The dads are important too, and what about, the grandmas? Or, we're always trying to think about all of these people that we're leaving out. And so I learned from one of my mentors, Seth Godin, because when I did his mentorship program, he had this question: who are you including and who are you excluding?
Ooh.
And so it's important to exclude people on purpose.
I love that. And like with my two podcast shows, I'm very clear that if somebody's not vegan, if they consume animal and dairy in their food consumption, and we like to domino down to, your clothing, your hair products, your cosmetics, all of that. But it starts with the food consumption. And I've had people who have tried to bypass that and get on my show. And it's like, no, it's like, it doesn't work. Well, I'm almost there. I'm 95% of the way there. And it's like, no, you're not going to be on my show. And I was actually warned by a very high-powered consultant. I was at a live event and she brought me up on stage, put me on the hot seat, and I was talking about my desire to move into the vegan space because I'd already been vegan for a couple of years. And she goes, "Oh, no, Kathleen." She goes, "You're making a huge mistake. It's not a big enough market, and you're going to narrow too much." And I thought, no, it doesn't feel like what you're telling me is correct for me. And you mentioned about alignment, that in your ads, you must be aligned with what you're advertising. In your affiliate marketing, you must be aligned with that. And then in the, what was the third one? There was
ambassadorship,
that you're going to represent companies that you truly believe in. And, a lot of people think that they're going to be missing out if they don't do that. But what I have found, and I'm sure you found the same thing, the narrower you go, the deeper you can go. So talk about that.
Yeah, because, in order to create that sense of validation, favorite word, right, is to know exactly who you're talking to with exact preciseness. And when you do that, you create a sense of belonging and a sense of familiarity. And it's like you are speaking to them personally. And actually, I don't need to lie about this. You can go on my blog and look at the comments, and many of the comments, many say like, "Oh, this was helpful." But most of the comments say, "I felt like you were talking personally to me." People I don't know, people that I do SEO and they find me on Google, people from all over the world. Why? Because you get so crystal clear into what these people need, that you deliver things that are personalized, customized. The only thing that you don't have is their name on it. But that is what creates and makes an impact and a difference. And I love that you followed your intuition in that, Kathleen, because you know what? The more narrow we go, the more we're able to connect on a deeper level, but also that their brain is going to light up in places that are going to open them up to your suggestions, but also open them up to the possibilities that you're painting for them. So actually, it's incredible how much deeper you can go in that relationship with people when they know they can trust you because you know them, you know their problems, you know their goals, and you're an ally to them.
That is, you've really hit the nail on the head with that one, because it's like with the clients that I work with now, they're vegan, and we can have conversations that go much deeper than just the surface level of business, that we really get into life purpose, mission, and all that. So first of all, how do people find you? Go ahead and give your web address.
Yes, it's thepositivemom.com, thepositivemom.com.
Perfect.
And I want to say real quick, those conversations that you have with your clients, they're safe. And that's what people are looking, because, people say, oh, we need vulnerability and authenticity. And yet people are not going to be vulnerable or authentic unless they feel really safe.
Absolutely. So if there's somebody listening right now or watching right now that is thinking, I really want to start being more authentic in what I put out to the market, whether it be videos, blog posts, audio files, what are some recommendations that you can give people?
Yeah, I think that it starts with go back into all your stories. And I like this exercise called the story map, where you divide your life in maybe 5 years at a time or 10 years at a time, and then start saying, what happened during, like, let's say 0 to 5, I was born, I went to kindergarten, my dog, we got a dog. And so go and map out all those stories and see which of those stories made you who you are. What beliefs you got, when I went to kindergarten, I realized that I love friends, or maybe that I was alone in a room full of people. It doesn't matter what that is, but those experiences are going to help you start sharing stories that are deeply personal to you. And when I say personal, I don't mean like you need to go into detail with everything that you're not comfortable with. Yes, you can go on my blog and I have very deep posts in there, but sometimes it took 20 years for me to open up about something. So you got to take your time, got to know what's right. But when you do this, when you share authentically, what you want to do is bring people into the experience, share what was happening, what the room was like, what was going on through your body. It's different for me to say, oh, I was questioning my life, versus saying, I was on the carpet in the fetal position, shivering with a knot in my stomach, hearing nothing, and everything was black. It's a different experience when you bring people into the picture. And it makes it, even though you're saying the same thing, it makes it more authentic, because people are going to connect with you more. The second thing, after, doing that story map and choosing those stories that you're going to share, the second thing is, why would I share it? And an exercise that I like to do is the 7 levels of why. So why do I want to blog? Oh, because blogging is interesting. Why is it interesting? Because I like to write. Why do I like to write? Because I can make sense of life when I write. Why do I make sense of life when I write? So you just go, why? And usually the 7th time is where you're going to find the gold. And you're going to communicate that why every time you communicate with your audience, because they need to know your agenda. They already think that you have an agenda. So when you start your storytelling with, what, I realized that I make sense of the world when I'm writing, because I was 5 years old the first time I started to write my story, and I decided to not take my life at 5 years old because of the experience that I had. When you tell them that, they know that you're really in it for service, to help others, that you feel it at a deeper level. And so that makes the connection more authentic.
as you were sharing that, it was bringing up thoughts of different times in my business. I'm coming up on 29 years in my business, and different times that I've transformed my business. And some of it had to do with that, it was 9/11 hit, and that flipped businesses upside down. 2008 flipped businesses upside down, and then COVID did. But then there were the personal upside downs. And I remember many, many years ago when I had a consultant that I was going through some very, very intense training with her and consulting. And she said, I want you to share with people about your personal relationship. And I said, no, I can't do that. And now I've been with my wife 33 years. Now I say it, well, that's who I am. But back then I kept it very private. I didn't want people to know, because I thought, I'm going to lose business because of it. And I told her that. I said, there's going to be people that won't want to have anything to do with me. And she goes, good, let them go and do business elsewhere. She goes, you want people who appreciate you for all of you, not part of you, but all of you. And I remember when I actually wrote the message that I was going to send out, and it took me a while. I kept going, send, and I didn't want to. And then finally I was like, oh my gosh, I know that people are going to not like me, and I know blah, blah, blah. And I was telling all these stories to myself. So I hit send, and sure enough, that day I had more unsubscribes than I had had ever. And I thought, I knew it. But then I had people who wrote me and said, thank you for sharing. I have a brother who's gay. I have a sister who's gay. I have a mother. I have whatever it may be. And all of a sudden it took my relationship with my market to a whole new level. Then there was the story about being in recovery for 39 years. I didn't want people to know that, because, I had a very dark past because of my drinking. Went through the same thing. Well, then all of a sudden people are saying, I have a family member who really is struggling with their drinking. And it took things to a whole new level. And I don't always lead with that, but the fact that now it's been put out there. And then it was the same thing with being vegan. It was like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Well, I got to tell you, I had more people get off my list because I mentioned the V word than anything else that I ever did. And it was like my market narrowed down, but now I go so deep into that market. So what you're saying is so true, is be authentic, be who you are. Don't let your past haunt you. And in closing, I mean, we've had such a delightful conversation, and I definitely want to have you back to continue on with other things that you're doing. But what would you, let's start with, where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? What's your vision of your life in 5 to 10 years?
Oh, that's such a great question, because I think, it's key also to the marketing and branding process to know where you're going. So I really love that you followed up with that. I think, for me, I have so many things in motion right now. And what I really want to do with my TEDx talks, and, now as a contributor to Entrepreneur Magazine and Forbes, I want to spread a message of validation to the entire world. I want that moms, obviously, that are positive moms, and that means that they're peaceful, present, playful, and what I like to call on purpose. But I want really people to feel validated. And so I'm writing a book about that. And I want it on the New York Times bestselling list, because I want everyone in the world to lead with validation, to lead with knowing that every emotion is valid, and that every emotion needs to be expressed, and that there's a safe way to express it. And so when you said that, I didn't want to click send, or maybe I don't want to click publish, it's because we don't feel that safety. We don't feel that who we are is safe in this big world. And so when people are safe, they can be who they are. They can express what they feel, and they can be received with love and understanding. And that is my journey. I'm going to publish everything that I can, and to become the validation advocate for the entire world, and especially with teens. Because my work with moms really stems from being a misunderstood child and teenager. And so when moms heal, moms are able to validate their kids and validate their teens, and save lives.
So with that in mind, let's say there's somebody listening right now that really needs to get some hope and inspiration and know that it does get better. And they're just feeling lost. They're feeling like, life has become pretty heavy for them. What are your words to them that can help them to get through just another day and then another day and then another day?
Oh, I love that you asked that question. The thing is, we're always told in this society, I call it motivational shame. Oh, you can choose your thoughts. Oh, happiness is a choice. Oh, don't worry, it'll get better, or it happened for a reason. And the truth is, we don't always choose our thoughts. They just come as punishing lightning bolts. And so when that happens, find a safe person. Don't do it alone. If you cannot do it alone, there's nothing wrong with you. You're not supposed to do it alone. So before that happens, because, it happens to me, it happens to so many people, you're not alone. Have a conversation with a friend, someone that you feel could be a safe person, and say, you know what? And I'm going to make an example with you, Kathleen. You know what, Kathleen? Sometimes life gets overwhelming for me. And when it happens, what I want to do is disappear. Do you think it's okay for me to text you a number or a word that means I'm having that issue? And would you be willing to just listen to me? In quiet silence, just listen to me speak. And at the end, just say thank you. And this is just an example, because for me, usually my voice was never heard. And so for me, being heard is a big one. So find out for yourself, what is it? Do you need hugs? Do you need to be told that you matter? And it usually is tied to our love language. So, maybe, for you, it's like, oh, I'm hugging you tight right now as you're speaking. Or I'm sending you a big hug, or, I know that you matter. I know that you matter. I know that you matter. So it'll be different for several people,
Right.
But find out how you get out of it, how you have gotten out of it. There are crisis lines available, but it's so much better if we were able to speak with someone that we already love and care for. But that conversation doesn't happen when we're in it. It needs to happen before we're in it, because many people don't know what to say, and usually will say the wrong thing, or usually won't know, will be so shocked and so stunned that they won't know what to do or what to say. Or maybe what they'll say, it's very well-meaning, but doesn't really help. So having that conversation, I call it the safe conversation, will help you understand why what the other person, maybe they'll say, well, that's too much for me. And you'll thank them, but you'll be in the right frame of mind to understand that. But maybe you'll have someone who'll be your safe person that you can type a 0 and they'll know to come give you a hug. So be proactive, because you being in this life matters, and you need to know it. And you need to be proactive of that. And usually we don't want to die. We just want the pain to stop.
Absolutely. It's like with suicide, people say, well, why would somebody do that? They're just trying to get out of pain. I mean, it's like there's slow ways we try to kill ourselves. There's fast ways, and there are, it's being a lifeline for somebody. And, when you were sharing, I was thinking about, in recovery, what we say to the alcoholic who is really struggling: call me before you take that drink. No matter how bad it is, call me before. Once you take the drink, there's nothing I can do to help you. Before you take the drink, we can talk through this. We can walk through it together. And it sounds like that's what you really give to mothers, and you give them inspiration. You give them hope. This has been a wonderful conversation. I'm so glad you're vegan. I mean, you're out there just changing the world as a vegan woman, as a positive mom. And this has been delightful. And I really, really just wish you the very best. And this is Kathleen Gage. You've been listening to the Vegan Visibility Podcast Show. I've been talking with Elayna And did I get that right?
Elayna. It's
Elayna.
okay.
I don't know. It's like they're okay. Elayna. Okay, but this has been delightful, and I really would love to have you back and just keep doing what you're doing and be your awesome self. This is Kathleen Gage wishing you a great day.
You've been listening to the Vegan Visibility Podcast Show. Be sure to subscribe to get notified when the next episode is live. And we always appreciate reviews. Join us next time for more inspiration, education, and motivation to build your business one cruelty-free and healthy person at a time.